Meet Sporus, a name synonymous with pain and anguish in the annals of ancient Rome. He might not be a household name today, but his story certainly deserves to be. Born into slavery, Sporus's life took a turn when he caught the eye of the infamous Emperor Nero, not just for his delicate features and golden locks, but because he bore a striking resemblance to Nero's recently deceased wife, Poppaea. His eyes, bloodshot from sleepless nights and heavy drinking, focused on every detail, on the delicate features, the golden hair, the very essence of Poppaea, and the more he looked, the more convinced he became that this slave was the reincarnation of his lost love. He was a beacon, a signpost, leading him back to Poppaea. In Nero's mind, he was bringing his beloved back to life, oblivious to the monstrous act he was about to commit. His mind, already teetering on the edge, conjured visions of reuniting with Poppaea, of continuing their love story that death had so cruelly interrupted. He was mutilated, violated, and broken, yet still, he survived. The sight of Sporus, pale and emaciated, could turn even the most hardened Roman Stoic to ice water. He voiced his concerns, pointing out the slaves, deteriorating health, and the monstrosity of the emperor's actions. Sporus's fate was sealed. There was no escape from Nero's. He was trapped in a gilded cage of his own despair, forced to endure the unspeakable, but his pleas fell on deaf ears. Nero, intoxicated by his delusion, was immune to reason. Sporus, already broken by Nero's abuse, was subjected to more torment, forced to relive the horrors of the past under a new master. He was paraded through the streets of Rome, not as a respected noble or a celebrated performer, but as a mockery, a punchline to a sick joke played by the emperor. As Sporus withered away in the heart of the emperor's madness, the echoes of his agony whispered tales of a love turned grotesque, of a life destroyed by obsession, of a humanity lost in the depths of imperial excess. He was dressed as a raped maiden, a parody of innocence, while vicious fighters circled him, eager to unleash their brutality. In the annals of history, Sporus's story serves as a grim reminder of the cost of unchecked power, the fragility of human life, and the enduring strength of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. But the memory of Sporus lives on as a symbol of the indomitable spirit that refuses to be broken no matter how cruel fate may seem. Sporus's terror must have been palpable, his vulnerability laid bare for the amusement of the crowd. Let his story be a beacon, reminding us to stand against injustice, to champion the downtrodden, because the true tragedy of Sporus is not just in what happened to him, but in the fact that such atrocities can occur in the shadow of an empire that claimed to bring light and civilization to the world, and to fight for a world where no one ever has to endure the horrors that Sporus faced, and progress, that the importance of remembering Sporus becomes all the more crucial, and to recognize the profound cost of silencing those voices that dare to speak truth to power. It is to confront the harsh realities of our collective heritage, to acknowledge the mistakes, whose voices have been silenced by the clamor of empires, and whose memories have been overshadowed by the allure of power and conquest, and atrocities of our predecessors, and to vow to learn from their shadows, rather than allowing them to consume us. And as long as we remain their witnesses, their stories will continue to shape our understanding of the past and serve as a guiding light on our journey towards a better future. He ended his own life, choosing death over a single day more of captivity. It was a tragic climax to a story that had begun with such promise, a life cut short by the caprice of powerful men. But it is precisely that marginalization that makes his tale all the more potent. He continued his ghastly experiments, oblivious to the cries of pain and anguish, echoing within his palace walls. After the infamous emperor's demise, Sporus found no respite. Instead, he became a pawn in a game of political chess, traded between emperors as a symbol of power and vengeance. But Nero remained unmoved. His madness was a bottomless pit, insatiable and unending. His days were filled with luxurious gifts, fine clothing, and all the material comforts one could desire. Little did Sporus know that his mornings would soon become a nightmare. He was summoned to Nero's side, not as a lover or a friend, but as a patient. For Nero, consumed by his delusion, saw Sporus as his late wife reborn, and his touch, instead of being tender, was invasive, cruel, and painful. But these trappings of wealth were a cruel joke, a gilded cage masking the horror that awaited him. So began Sporus' journey into the heart of imperial madness. His spirit, once vibrant, was crushed under the weight of Nero's obsession. His body, once strong and proud, was broken and abused. It was a tragedy hidden behind closed doors, known only to the shadows in the corners of Nero's palace. But there was a problem, a small detail, that Nero's infatuated gaze had overlooked. The slave was a young man named Sporus, who had lived a carefree life as a performer until the day Nero's eyes fell upon him. Suddenly, Sporus's world was turned upside down. His fate was now intertwined with that of the emperor's madness. But before we delve into his haunting tale, let me ask you a question. What would you do if you were told you look like the emperor's late wife? If your answer isn't related to getting out of town fast, then prepare to be shocked by what happened next. Nero was inconsolable. The loss of his beloved Poppaea had sent him into a spiral. He threw himself into debauchery, seeking perhaps to drown his sorrows in wine. But as the nights grew longer and the shadows deeper, his thoughts kept returning to Poppaea. Unable to bear the void left by her absence, Nero stumbled upon a solution so grotesque it has echoed through history. One fateful day, while strolling through the bustling streets of Rome, Nero spotted a slave bearing an uncanny resemblance to his late wife. In his frenzy, Nero decided to make the slave his new wife, determined to resurrect Poppaea, and the path ahead was paved with unimaginable horrors. For Nero, Sporus was more than a slave or a doppelganger. Sporus was taken from his life as a performer and thrust into the heart of the imperial palace. Every morning, Nero would wake with renewed vigor, eager to tend to his new bride, or so he believed. As weeks turned into months, Sporus's body bore the marks of Nero's obsession. What happened to Sporus was nothing short of a massacre. One day, Nero's physician, unable to bear witness to the abuse any longer, spoke up. All the while, the Roman populace was kept in the dark, unaware of the horrors unfolding behind the facade of imperial grandeur. Each passing day brought fresh horrors, each night a torment of pain and violation. Tragically, Sporus's story doesn't end with Nero. Otho, who briefly held the imperial title after Nero, claims, seeing in the emaciated slave a tool for revenge against his predecessor. It was during this time that Sporus's life truly became a living hell. One particularly gruesome incident saw Sporus forced to participate in gladiatorial games, not as a fighter, but as the victim. Such was the depth of his humiliation that even the coarsest and most jaded Roman spectator winced at the thought of what might befall him next. Finally, after enduring a decade of abuse under the thumb of successive emperors, Sporus's torment came to an end. His death, though shrouded in the mists of time, resonates with a heartbreaking familiarity. More than just a footnote in the chronicles of the Roman Empire, Sporus's tale is a testament to the resilience of the human soul, a soul that even in the darkest depths of despair and degradation, yearns for freedom, dignity, and peace. His life may have been marred by tragedy, his story forever stained by the horrors he endured. So remember him, not just as a victim of circumstance, but as a hero whose quiet dignity in the face of overwhelming odds is a lesson for us all. And as we reflect on his life and death, let us pledge to honor his memory by working towards a future where stories like his never repeat themselves. Yet it's precisely in those moments of starkest contrast, where the darkness of human cruelty is juxtaposed against the ideals of enlightenment, his story challenges us to confront the uncomfortable truths of history, to acknowledge the darkness that lurks even in the brightest corners of human achievement. For in the grand sweep of imperial narratives, Sporus's story might seem like a mere footnote, a fleeting moment of madness in the life of a notorious emperor. When we peel back the layers of imperial grandeur, of power and prestige, we find the haunting visage of Sporus staring back at us, a mirror reflecting the brutal realities of existence under the shadow of tyranny. To remember Sporus is to resist the urge to sanitize history, to refuse the temptation to view the past through rose-tinted spectacles of nostalgia and triumphalism. In doing so, we pay homage to the countless Sporuses throughout history whose stories have been lost to the winds of time, for in their silence, their stories become all the more resonant, their voices echoing across the corridors of time, demanding to be heard, demanding to be remembered.